gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store right now. And be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all our official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580, at 20% off, but only during the holiday season. Happy holidays.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
I wish that I could fly into the sky so very high, just like a dragonfly. I fly above the trees, over the seas, in all degrees, to anywhere I please. Oh, I want to get away. I wanna fly away.
Happy Thursday. Welcome in. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. A little Lenny Kravitz to bring us in. This, of course, is the show where we hit all the trending topics across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I am your host, Jill Munroe. And, you know, it's the end of the week. It's the end of the month. I hope that you are relaxed, in a comfortable place, so that we can get into all of these trending topics and headlines. And you know there's much to discuss, as always. So before we get into all of that, are you following us on social media? KBLA 1580, you know the drill by now. If you haven't gotten on board, now's your chance. Make it happen. Also, hit me up. I'm at Stiletto Jill everywhere. You can also download the app so that you can listen to us at your convenience. And if you want to get the visual with this audio experience, make sure you're hitting up YouTube. We are there live. The chat always has an interesting perspective on the topics of the night. So, you know, lock in, tap in. Now, let me give you a rundown of what we are discussing this evening. Of course, you heard Lenny Kravitz in the intro. That is not by accident. Lenny had a recent interview where he stated that he felt like BET Networks, they never showed him love. So we're going to get into that. I have a unique perspective on this topic because I worked at Virgin Records with Lenny on a project, and I also worked at BET. So, you know, we're going to see if we can kind of break down what is happening from both sides, at least in my opinion, and go from there. In hour two, we're going to reheat some old beef. Carrie Hilson recently appeared on the R&B Money podcast with Tank and Jay Valentine. And, you know, they have a segment called I Ain't Saying No Names, where the guest drops tea. They share a story from the past, and they don't say any names, but you know, this particular story, people figured it out because the other person involved has shared the story previously, and we're going to kind of discuss old beef and really how it came to a resolution, and if you think that the resolution is just and fair. And then in the third hour, we're going to get into something special. You know, if you are a fan of the hit Starz series Raising Kanan, that would be Power Book 3, we have an interview with the cast tonight. We're going to be talking to Makai Curtis, who plays Kanan, Antonio Ortiz, who plays Famous, Haley Kilgore, that's Jukebox, Malcolm Mays, who plays Uncle Lulu, and London Brown, who plays Marvin. We also will be talking with Joey Badass. He portrays Unique, and there's a new character that is joining the cast this season as Unique's older brother, Ronnie. His name is Gotham. So we're going to get into that with them and learn all about the new season of Power. So of course, before we get into all of the trending topics and headlines, I have to give you a couple of conversation starters. These are stories that I want you to be aware of, but we don't have time to get into the full scope. So listen, Michael Jackson is continuing to break awards. The King of Pop's 1983, it's been 40 years, y'all, 1983 music video, Beat It, has reached 1 billion views on YouTube. And you have to think, it wasn't on YouTube in 1983, obviously, but people are still, to this day, checking it out. It's a completely different era, 40 years later. And, I mean, if you think about it, Michael, obviously, he is the one. He is the icon. He is the one that they're all trying to catch or emulate or kind of bring forth that type of energy. It can never be duplicated, though. I don't care what anyone says. At least I can't see it happening in my lifetime. Just because of technology's sake, Michael Jackson had people lined up before there was social media and cell phones. Just think about that. People were falling out at his concerts, crying. They were going around the world to tour to see him, spending big dollars before that even was a thing. There was no internet for them to pre-plan with other Michael fans to make it not so lonely. This is not the first Michael single to reach 1 billion views on YouTube, of course. Billie Jean and 1996's They Don't Care About Us both have reached that number. Billie Jean, expected. They Don't Care About Us, that is certainly interesting to me. That song caused so much controversy when it first came out. I think Michael even had to change the lyrics to it, to the opening. And, it's crazy what time does when a look back at things. That was Michael's song sort of protest, of inhumane treatment, of the media coming down unfairly on him, just of all the different woes he felt that people were suffering at the time. And it didn't do well. And now, 15 years after his passing and 40-something years after one of the biggest albums of all time, it's still happening, right? And, of course, Thriller recently reappeared in the top 100 on Billboard. It peaked at number 21. It's the 6th consecutive year that it has reappeared on the Billboard charts. Of course, thank you to Halloween. I mean, who can you see keeping up with that? Not many. When we come forward, we're going to get into Lenny Kravitz and his comments about not being supported by black media. We're going to dive all into that, plus more trending topics and headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward. Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
This this open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is offering health plans starting at $0 a month. Each plan provides benefits including $0 preventive services, 24/7 telehealth services, around-the-clock nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, and more. Shop and compare premium silver plans with $0 deductibles to help meet your health goals. Ready to shop? Visit us online at lacarecovered.org for a commitment-free instant quote or speak with us directly at 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered, your affordable path to wellness.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So, Lenny Kravitz. Listen, do we love some Lenny Kravitz? I think we do. I think that Lenny is generally someone that we think of and have warm feelings about. You know, some people have had jokes at various times, patchouli jokes and things of that nature. Comedy about he and Lisa Bonet's and what is it, Jason Momoa? But I don't even think Jason's a part of the mix anymore. But, you know, they're how they basically connected and co-parented and, you know, had a blended family situation for all of those years. So Lenny has a new album coming out. And it is called, I just lost it. It is called Blue Electric Light. And it's his first album that he's dropping in 5 years. So he recently did an interview with Esquire where he opened up about a lot of things, right? And one of the things that has caught a lot of people's eye is that the 59-year-old said that he has been mystified at how he's been treated by Black entertainment and culture outlets through the years. He said, take Vibe magazine, which featured a who's who of Black artists in its pages when it began publishing in 1993. They waited almost a decade to put Lenny on the cover, and he said it wasn't just Vibe. To this day, he says, I have not been invited to a BET thing or a Source Awards thing, he says. And it's like, here is a Black artist who has reintroduced many to Black art forms, because we know rock and roll was started by Black people. He's broken down barriers just like those that came before me broke down. That is a positive, and they don't have anything to say about it. So I thought that this was interesting because he is right to a degree. Lenny is not someone generally that probably a BET or Source Awards would think to reach out to. Maybe a desire to, but I don't know if he would necessarily be top of mind. As I mentioned, right, I worked at Virgin Records and I worked on a Lenny project or two. He's a great guy, really cool, enjoyed that. And I also worked at BET. So I have a unique perspective in that I can see this topic from both sides. Now, I can't really say what is currently happening as far as Lenny and his career. and whomever's around him. But what I absolutely can say is that if in 2002, 2001, at that time frame, if someone from BET had reached out to Virgin Records PR department, or I can't say this part with absolute certainty, reached out to Lenny's management, they probably would have been turned away or ignored because they didn't think that it was a fit. I find it interesting that Lenny is not aware that part of the reason why he wasn't in black spaces, at least some of the time, is because those around him weren't really open to him being featured in those. They didn't. Let me say this. I mean, and I think this is obvious and we still see it now. There are different tier levels, we know, for celebrities, of course, but they also put different tier levels as far as outlets that they engage in. Fahima mentions that Lenny has done collaborations with hip hop artists. That's fine. It's not saying, I'm not trying to imply that Lenny doesn't like black culture or things like that. But what I am saying is sometimes the people around you will gatekeep what you have access to as an artist. Sometimes it is on you to step into that, right? Like, for example, you hear a lot of times about things happening on the red carpet and, black outlets being placed at the end of the carpet and talent, walking by, you ask their publicist, can they stop? And they're like, oh, we don't have time, or they'll come so late so that really they can only hit the big outlets and move ahead. Sometimes that's their publicist, and sometimes that is the talent hiding behind their publicist. So, I mean, again, I love Lenny. I worked on some Lenny projects. That's a fact. I enjoy his music. I've seen his shows. He puts on a fantastic show. But again, I can't say what is happening in 2023. But what I can tell you is in that the early 2000s, if a BET or a Soul Train Awards potentially reached out to Lenny, I don't know if his team would have accepted, right? I also think that there is a perception around Lenny, whether real or assumed, that he is not someone that really digs into culture in the same way that we think of when we think of something like BET. So there was an interview that he did, I believe, for the OWN network that took place in 2013, right? And some of his comments that he said in there, and let me be clear, I don't necessarily think that there is something wrong with his perspective, but it's just a perspective that I know that some people would say, oh, well, he probably doesn't have an interest in getting into something that is, very black or very steeped in what we deem black culture, that with all of its current elements, so to speak, right? So in 2013, he spoke about not seeing race being a big deal and not really seeing a difference about races because his parents weren't the same race. They didn't discuss it. And he said because everyone around him was different colors, religions, and backgrounds, it wasn't something that was a big deal to him. And I use the word colors because he did. I took that as a direct quote. He also mentioned in this interview that the first day of first grade, a kid ran up to him and yelled, "Your father's white." And that was the first time he ever thought about there was a difference in his family, right? He went on to explain in this interview from 2013 that his great grandmother was Cherokee Indian, his father a Russian Jew, and his mother was Bohemian. So he didn't know what to mark on race forms. He said teachers would automatically just mark him as black, and he didn't like it, and he felt like it squashed his heritage. And so I think that when some people hear statements like that, it very much hits in the same way for some that someone saying all lives matter does. And I think with those type of things, people don't know what to make of it. So the assumption is someone like Lenny may not want to celebrate into the culture like that. And two, were his people, if they were pitched for Lenny, would they, one, bring that to him, and two, allow him to go to that? Trust and believe. There are a lot of artists at times that I can say BET sought after for the awards or things of that nature that wouldn't come. We talk about it now. We just talked about it in June, how sometimes some of the bigger artists in the culture will show up at other things, but not necessarily show up at things like the BET Awards or the Soul Train Awards. Because when, for some, not all, for some, when the movement happens towards mainstream success, then sometimes our things seem smaller or less significant, and they move as such and they treat us as such. But let something go wrong, let something happen, they're right there at our door, like brother, sister, whatever. So I'm not implying that that is anything that was going on with Lenny. I just find it interesting, though, that I'm sure he wanted to, everyone wants to feel loved and accepted from their own. And maybe this is a thought that has developed over time as he's evolved as a person, as an artist, and, on that level, because I just think it was interesting. He's never really made an effort when he's done promo at radio. I know it probably was hard or interesting to try and get radio play at, a hip hop station or a regular R&B station for some of his music. But did he ever think about maybe just going to the station and doing an interview anyway? Even if it might not go to an ad at that time, Again, I love Lenny, but sometimes we just like people that we feel show up for us too. And I think the word, whether real, implied, or assumed, is that Lenny had no interest in getting into black culture in that way. At any rate, we'll see what happens now that he has spoken out about it. Maybe we'll see him at the BET Awards next June. I would like to see Lenny honored, you know. Um, he really is an important part of the culture if you think about it. His mom, Roxy Roker, what she did with the Jeffersons, what he did as an artist. Shout out to View Park, because Lenny lived in View Park for a little while. Got to get my LA stuff in. But I think it's interesting that he's taken this stance, sort of. When he was Romeo Blue as well, I don't recall him really being into that. Again, not saying that he wasn't, it just wasn't something that he led with. At any rate, this was a really good interview, and there were some other topics that they got into. He talked about the fact that at 59 years old, he is not running away from love, right? He said that he hasn't gotten married, obviously, since he and Lisa Bonet broke up in 1993. Now, a lot of us, we think, oh, Lenny is still carrying a torch for Lisa. I mean, they are good friends and they did co parent well and they looked beautiful together. Sometimes you have to wonder, because, that's 30 years. But, he maybe just hasn't found his person yet. He does say that he's open to it and that he believes marriage is still a part of his future. He said he's become stronger, he's become more disciplined, and he's become more open to be able to do so. By doing so, he means getting married. But he said it's been a very difficult thing for him to figure out. He also had, excuse me, a failed engagement to Nicole Kidman, and he was with model Adrienne Lima for a while. So, he said that the desire's always been there, but just didn't work out, the flesh is willing, but what is it? The mind is weak or something like that. I think that's how the saying goes. I might be wrong. And he also says that he wouldn't be, mad at having another kid. Even though his daughter Zoe is 34 years old, it's the only child he has, so he's a girl dad. But yeah, he said that he'd love to have another kid and get married at 59. So ladies, there's still hope. Keep up alive. Where you at, Lenny? Go to Miami. I believe he still lives in Miami. So he also talked about the fact that Lisa Bonet's now ex-husband, or are they just separated? I can't remember what the final outcome was with that. They call him Uncle Lenny. That's how blended they are. The group spends a great deal of time together and have grown extremely close to, Uncle Lenny, who is technically, I guess, what would you call your siblings' father? I guess just your siblings' father. I guess that's why Uncle Lenny just works. It's kind of complicated, right? But anyway, Jason and Lisa's children are 16, Lola's 16, and Nicole Wolf is 15. So I do think that it is beautiful that they were able to maintain that dynamic, because, it's hard, and blending families is something that, not a lot of people necessarily are eager to do. So if you find people that you can do it, and it helps give some semblance of a family unit where everybody can count on each other, I think that's a beautiful thing. Fahima in the chat says, one must be invited for an interview at a radio station, and artists can't just show up. You're right, they can't just show up, but they can call and say, hey, I'd love to do such and such show. Happens all the time. I mean, it does. It really does. If you have an interest, that's why you have a publicist. That's why you have a manager. You don't have to do it, but you can send them, and they will go and find the person, the connection, the booker, whomever. Hey, my artist is interested in appearing on this show. Do you think that we can make it happen? It's not always just one-sided with the show or the station or whomever seeking out to, have guests come on. People also want to be a guest in general. So, I mean, I'm not being unfair. I'm not speaking from inside of a vacuum. I'm speaking to a very specific time period as well, when I got the opportunity to work on some projects with Lenny at his label. And I can tell you, we were not, as far as where he was categorized and where they were sending him, they weren't sending him to black outlets, but I think the expectation was he wasn't trying to go there either. When we come forward, we'll get more on this topic, more trending topics, more headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports is on the other side.
Let's fade into the sun, let your spirit fly. We'll be at one, just for a little fun. Oh yeah. I want to get away. I want to fly away.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis with the latest from the Black Information Network. The U.S. is continuing to push for the extension of humanitarian pauses in fighting between Israel and Hamas. More than 100 hostages held by Hamas have been released since the temporary ceasefire went into effect last week. The truce was extended for a seventh day today. The House Minority Leader says the Democrats have no official position on the expulsion of New York Republican George Santos. Hakeem Jeffries, who was black, told reporters today that the vote set for Friday is an issue of conscience. On this day in history in 1971, the television movie Brian Song aired on ABC. The story was based on the relationship between Chicago Bears running back Gale Sayers, who was black, and Brian Piccolo, who died of cancer. Also on this day in history in 1982, Michael Jackson released his sixth studio album, Thriller, selling more than 120 million copies. It's the best-selling album of all time. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Be beware if you are 60 or older, you may be at increased risk of hospitalization from RSV, respiratory syncytial virus.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com.
It's the gift-giving season, and we have a gift for you. Visit us online at KBLA.store for holiday savings of 20% off all of our KBLA swag. For the best in merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store right now. And be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all our official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580, at 20% off, but only during the holiday season. Happy holidays.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with one of the panelists, the owner of Kids Love. Take a listen.
So Kids Love, KIDSLUV, is a first-to-market zero-sugar, vitamin-enhanced functional beverage for kids.
So the zero sugar is really important because if not, the sugar gets on the teeth, it can cause cavities. So as a mom, I love this vitamins and hydration in one. Tell us what's happening here with Chase Bank today.
So I would say, I think what Chase is trying to do is create a community actually for entrepreneurs, a place where people can go. They have the space to do it. It's a beautiful space. And to be able to have these conversations. There are so many benefits to being a women-owned and certified business, from a standpoint of getting into stores, not paying the slotting fees of what it takes to be in stores. So I think Chase is trying to bring awareness to a lot of the things that people just don't know about, that not only the bank can help, but outside of the bank, their relationships can help create.
That's beautiful. And I know, this is how we build equity in communities of color, is kind of spreading that information and that knowledge. So thank you for being here today and doing your part and letting these women know that it is possible.
For KBLA 1580, I'm Maisha Cairo in the community with Chase.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Boom, 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 boom. Nissan has a car for every driver who wants more. More action. More fun. More guts. More head turns. More adventure. More electric. At Nissan, more is all we do.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Every night she walks right in my dreams since I met her from the start. I'm so proud I am the only one who is special in her heart. The girl is mine. The doggone girl is mine. I know she's mine.
Oh my.
Because the doggone girl is mine. I don't understand the way you think, saying that she's yours, not mine. Sending roses and your silly dreams, really just a waste of time, because she's mine. The doggone girl is mine.
What a wholesome song. Oh, this is the part.
Don't waste your
Oh,
time.
no, it's not. It's after this.
Because the doggone girl is mine.
Shout out to MJ.
I love you more than he. Take you anywhere.
Come on, Mike.
Well, I love you endlessly. Love it we will share. So come and go with me to one side.
Harmony, so sad.
But we both cannot have her, so it's one or the other. And one day you'll discover that she's my girl forever.
Shout out to Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. You know what? Yesterday was November 29th, 1982. That was the release of the Thriller album. My life was forever changed. It was changed forever. You want to know what else was released on November 29th? I think 1999. Cisco's album, Unleash the Dragon. So something about that November. I wonder if Cisco talked to Def Jam and did that on purpose. I feel like he would have had to have known, maybe something trying to siphon off that Michael MJ juice or something like that. That would be dope. Shannon Thompson in the chat says this song puts you in a good mood automatically. Yes, it does. Shout out to brother Alfonso. Good evening to you, Andy.
Was there something to album release dates as far as the season or whatnot?
Absolutely was.
Because I remember Jay-Z used to always talk about,
fourth quarter,
or he would talk about albums, I guess albums that would drop like May, June in preparation for the summer.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, these albums being dropped late November, was it, maybe
for the
holidays?
No, for sure. Fourth quarter release. That's
Okay,
what we call it. Fourth quarter. You get it in there. It's a big time of the year. You're getting ready for the Christmas, Hanukkah, all of those things. So, the sales thing goes a little different now because at that time albums dropped on Tuesdays as well, and now albums are released on Fridays. Shout out to one, Beyonce Giselle Knowles, for changing the game up. Yeah, but that was a great album, naturally. And so we were just talking about the billion views from YouTube for Beat It, Thriller, Billie Jean, timeless. Come on now. Everybody wanted a strawberry pink button down and bow tie and a black leather tuxedo suit. People still rocking that look to this day. All right, back on Lenny. So also, again, and oddly enough, I can speak to this period because I worked on some of these releases. So, I looked up kind of around the time period, naturally, that I was at Lenny's label, Virgin. And back in 2001, 2002, he had an album release back there, right? He did do some black media. Most of it was print. But again, with not all of these, but I believe he did Vibe, Ebony, and Essence. I don't believe he did a shoot with any of them. Maybe one. I'm not certain. Maybe Vibe, he did a shoot. They probably had budget. But with Essence and Ebony, he was sent because what happens, well, what used to happen is that when an artist does packaging for their album release, they also do, there's an extra set or outtakes or things that they're going to send to magazines or other places that they know will want to cover them or want to feature something with them, but won't have the time as far as the artist, or the artist may not want to give them that time. So we would send them selects from certain things. There would be certain photos. Some of them would be exclusive, so only a certain tier of outlets would get access to those photos. Some would just be generic, and those are the ones that you kind of would see across the board on repeat. So again, when I speak about this stuff, I can say I don't know what Lenny's feeling was as far as getting in with black media or going to their events and award shows. But from the flip side of it, I can say that there was likely some gatekeeping going on, and there was no interest in having Lenny at those type of events. I can tell you that an artist like Janet, who also was active at that time period, there was a difference in how the access and the availability and the type of things, different outlets got. Some of it was just a numbers game. It depends on what your circulation was, your viewership was, how much they got. It just so happened to coincide that a lot of times with those number balances, it seemed that the more mainstream or white-leaning media were the ones that got the edge. So I understand why he feels that way. And again, I don't think that he is wrong in saying that, especially, in these latter years, if we have expanded out and there's been different fusions and things like that, why wasn't Lenny involved in a BET Prince tribute? But again, I ask you, seriously, would he have shown up? Is he more willing to show up now because he's not quite at the same heights that he was earlier? And I say this again as someone who has professionally worked with him and enjoy him simply as a fan and a performer. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, though, and I wonder if we will hear more from it and more surrounding it, right? Some of his other comments were, he pointed out that the lack of recognition is baffling for him because he has succeeded in blending as many genres as he has, blending his family. He says he finds it hard to understand why his success is not more celebrated by the people that run those publications and organizations. He also said that I have been that dream and the example of what black artists can do. Right? He also talked about in the same piece the racist and sort of misogynist, well, not sort of, they were trash, that Rolling Stone founder Jan Werner said. He called the remarks disappointing and sad. But the thing about that is, but Lenny, again, you would have given more credence to them, or at least your people, than a magazine like Vibe or Ebony. So I don't know. Andy?
I don't even think black people really rocking with him like that. Generally speaking.
I don't disagree with you. I think it could be a programming thing. However, I don't think that means that they shouldn't be introduced to him or celebrated. You know what I'm saying? Fine, maybe not fully in the rotation or every year, but there are moments that you can, just like we, pay homage to the old times, we could do that with something like him because he is a trailblazer in some ways to some degree, and we can expand our minds. But I do think that he's being just a tad not completely real about the whole arc of the situation. When we come forward, more trending topics and headlines. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
trending topics, and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, everything okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
Honey. Hey, I'm here for you. Tell me about school today.
When kids can't find the right words, music can help them sound it out. Talk to the kids in your life about their emotional well-being. Find tools and resources at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
MC Gillette knows you're dedicated to your barbershop routine, but how do you maintain the beard hair you already have? The King C. Gillette Beard Thickener helps to reduce patchiness and strengthens hair's resilience to breakage. Apply the King C. Gillette Beard Thickener daily to see a thicker and fuller beard in just 14 days. It's highly scented with King C. Gillette's signature scent. Just trim, wash, and soften. With King C. Gillette.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin ultra strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. I told you our YouTube chat is always bustling. Brother Alfonso said, I'm a big Lenny Kravitz fan, but Prince kind of filled the lane in genre blending, if you will. I mean, I think, Prince, obviously, I'm a huge Prince fan. But I think that there can be more than one, right? I think that there was a time in the mid-90s or early 90s where, though it wasn't our thing, black people were like, rock out, Living Color. They were a black rock group. You know what I mean? So I think that we know when something is not really our genre, right? Nobody was mad when Justin Bieber popped up at the BET Awards. So it's not that they don't understand counter programming and things of that nature. What I can tell you, right? Again, I have the luxury of having worked for Lenny's label, NPR, and having worked at BET Network, worked on the BET Awards amongst other shows and things of that nature. They would have loved having a star of Lenny's caliber there to present, to do anything. That is not something that they would have been like, or that they wouldn't have reached for. I don't know if they ever reached out to his people, for lack of a better term. So I can't say that they were denied or turned down, but I also know that a lot of people called BET offices and requested tickets. You would be surprised, of all different levels. There are people that they reached out to host the BET Awards. Icons that were like, I'm good, thanks. So I think that, again, it's a different time period now, and certainly different things can happen now. But if I just look back to the time when I was, working with him, it wasn't really an option, BET had Eminem on there. He's in hip hop, though. So I think that Andy made a good point about the fact that, his genre is outside of typically what we go for. And I do think that that is a fair note, but I don't think that that should preclude him from participating. But on that same note, none of those outlets, none of those black media outlets would be like, why would we have Lenny Kravitz here? Just on the strength of that's a good look for them. So, now may there have been some things, I'm not saying this happened, but assuming there was some negotiation going on or something like that, and maybe someone felt on a network level or on an outlet level that what he was requesting or the requirements was too much for their budget, that definitely could have happened, because the budgets were definitely different when you're talking about a mainstream outlet or a black publication or show. We all know it. There's a difference in that number, and what is standard at times, or what used to be for some of those mainstream entities, wasn't necessarily available to a black media outlet. And sometimes things like that are the things that will remove you from contention. So you just never know. Again, I hope that this opens up a door and we do see Lenny, or even a segment on, black rock acts, not just, oh, we started it, really show the whole transition of, or the different ones that were there. Like I mentioned Living Color. What was the guy's name? Vernon. I think he fell out of favor though. But, a Lenny, someone like Des Dickerson that used to be in the Revolution with Prince. There's lots of acts that are, I guess now we would call them alternative urban, alternative R&B. I'm not sure what that lane is, but I think that there is a lane there that is available now that at this age, his music might slot more comfortably in. If you think about somebody like Pink Sweats, or even Frank Ocean at a time period, there's certain music that might be more open and could fit Lenny into the thing. But, we'll have to see what happens. I bet you they'll be ringing Lenny's publicist's phone hook off. Do people still do that? I guess there's no hook anymore. So, I don't know, texting up a storm, whatever, emailing. I bet you Lenny will be getting some requests from some black outlets now. Andy?
How many years have the BET Awards been around now?
About 20.
About 20?
A little more than that, yeah, but about that.
So I'm like, the BET Awards been popping for 20 years and you're just now speaking on it.
Again, I think that there is a change in what Lenny Kravitz represents to the mainstream audience as well. I'm not saying that that is the case. I'm just saying that is what it appears to be happening. And again, maybe he's changed over time, and what he feels. Maybe early on he did feel like, well, they didn't ask me, so I'm not gonna go. We all have those miscommunication things. Ego and pride can stand in the way of a lot of things. But again, just speaking from hearing those internal conversations and just knowing what the press plan was, there was the things like Essence and Ebony, those legacy things, but I don't know. I don't know if was Lenny going to go on the couch and sit down with Roxy and Terrence? I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't even know if that would have been his demographic.
it probably wouldn't have. So, I mean, that you got to consider all of that within the mix. And I definitely don't think that they would have shunned him. And I definitely don't think that if he or someone would have requested him to be, I think that they would have done everything that they probably could have to make it happen and to, secure some type of performance or something.
Does this put pressure on BET to bring him on in for
I for sure think he'll get the call, and I hope he is willing to accept it and not like, well, you calling now because I called you out. I mean, here's the thing. The BET Awards are produced by Jesse Collins, who also entertainment. He's black. He is black. Jesse Collins, here's a fun fact for you because, I'm full of them. Jesse Collins back in the day used to be on 1580 K-Day early on. He's worked his way up, produced a bunch of different things. BET Awards, he's produced the Oscars, the Emmys. His production company is well known. And he's brought you some of your favorite moments as far as entertainment award shows and things of that nature, live production events, top tier, stellar. And they've worked with all types of acts. He is a black man, but they have done things that are not considered black events and things of that nature. So I'm sure if they can get him and timing-wise it works out, I bet that, they would love to have him. I know they would. But it's also a different time period. So I think, to your point, probably more open to it as a special thing, Now, rotation on the radio, I don't know about that.
Yeah, if they're going to send him an invitation, they might as well just give him, the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Something like
that,
yeah.
Apropos. And do you still have a relationship with the gentleman?
With who?
I forgot his name already. You just mentioned him. The BET guy.
When I worked at BET?
Who's the dude that be doing the BET Awards? You just said his name. You were just talking about
Jesse Collins. Jesse Collins Entertainment.
With him?
I know people that work within him. I'm
just saying, send him an invitation to, come back
for
to 1580. Why not? I'm just saying, it's full circle.
Come through, see if you can come through. That would be a good idea. Maybe I'll have to do that. We have to see if we can make that happen, Wish I had thought about that the other day because I actually, and we'll be playing this interview next week, talked to Reginald Hudlin. He directed a film called Candy Cane Lane, which drops tomorrow on Amazon, that stars Eddie Murphy and Tracy Ellis Ross. And Reggie was my boss at BET, and he does a lot of stuff with Jesse Collins Entertainment. So anyway, that's a long, complicated story, but it would make a good full circle moment. So we'll have to see. They do a lot of award shows and things like that, but we'll have to see. That would be nice. Listen, when we come forward, we have more trending topics, more headlines. We're going to get into a reheating of old beef between Carrie Hilson and Tiara Marie. And let's just say you can blame the R&B Money podcast for getting it kicked back off again. It really isn't kicked back off, but we're going to take a look at it. Plus, there's some other things that are floating around in the air. Shout out to Lenny Kravitz, though, y'all. And if you haven't seen Lenny in concert and you get a chance to, go check it out. It is definitely a very cool experience. News and sports is on the other side. You're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe.